So, first of all, welcome to all who have joined today for this session. As you might remember, my name is Nuria, and I work at ITC at the Youth and Trade Program. And we have been organizing together with my colleagues, Julia, Mayara, Claire, that you've met also in other occasions, I'm sure. We're organizing a series of webinars for hubs to make sure that we provide you with the right information about critical steps and critical tools to improve the services that you offer for the entrepreneurs. So today we have organized a session with the ACCA Global, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, to discuss the opportunities and synergies that hubs have when partnering with accountants. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce our key moderator of the day, that is Alexandra Zaronina Kirilova, and I hope I pronounced this right. She's the head of the SME Professional Insights at ACCA, and she develops research and advises on policy issues for ACCA related to small and medium enterprise or small and medium practices. Having previously worked for SME in pharmaceutical, transport, and hospitality sectors, Alexandra has hands-on understanding of the needs and realities of the SME world. And prior to joining ACCA, Alexandra dealt with various international organizations, including the UN, and regional integration programs of ENY as part of her work. She also represented the sector at high-level international events and developed joint research with Oxford Economics, Organization of American States, and the UNECE. So today we will have her as our moderator, and I'll let her introduce our wonderful panelists as well. Thank you for joining us, Alexandra, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Nuria, and good morning, everyone. I'm really delighted to be here today. Sorry that my intro took so much time. I didn't realize that everything would be read. I'm really happy to be joining this event today, because I think that there are so many synergies and opportunities for the accountancy professionals and the growth hubs working together, in particular, that we are now facing quite a challenging moment in terms of the small business response to the challenges of the pandemic. So I'm really happy that we are all here today to discuss those interesting, I hope, opportunities and synergies. Well, as Nuria has done the introduction of myself, I think it would be really great if the participants could also drop a note about yourselves, either just share who you are, where you are from, if you are representing a growth hub, or if you're an accountant, because we also opened the invitation to this event to some of our members, to the ACCA members. So don't hesitate to introduce yourself so that we also know better who our audiences are today, if you don't mind. As regards to our agenda today, and as usual, my Zoom slides have frozen. Okay, they're working again. So we'll just start with a very, very brief introduction of ACCA, just to put into the context on who we are as an organization. Then we'll look at key points of synergy between accelerators, incubators, and accountants based on our Space to Grow report. And then I think the most interesting part will be the panel discussion with our excellent panelists, who I will be happy to introduce a bit later. And of course, it would be extremely interesting to hear your comments, to hear your questions. And well, I hope you'll enjoy the session today. First of all, a couple of words about ACCA. So ACCA, this abbreviation stands for the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, where the association that was founded in 1904, were the global professional accounting body offering chartered accountants qualification. We are a global community of almost 230,000 members around the world, and more than 540,000 future members, students based in 176 countries. Sorry, there are so many figures. We are we're a non-for-profit organization, and we believe that the accountancy is vital for the economies to grow and prosper. And this is why we work all over the world to build the profession and to contribute to the fair society. And within the ACCA as an organization, in addition to the professional qualification, we also have a professional insights department, which is a thought leadership and research center. And well, I'm based within that research center. We cover a very broad spectrum of issues within our research and thought leadership work, from very specific business topics, risk management, but we also look at various technology solutions, AI, robotics. We're looking at different global processes and analyzing how they are influencing businesses, but also the accountancy profession. And of course, a very important work stream within our professional insights is the small and medium-sized businesses and small and medium-sized practices, which are small businesses, but within the accountancy field. And basically the findings of the report that I will be presenting just in a second, they were developed by our professional insights team. In our work, we consult a broad spectrum of stakeholders. We work with the government, we work with professional associations, we work with growth hubs, we work with universities. So we really try to consolidate the knowledge that is from across different industries, but also different sectors, to make sure that we deliver the insight that can be used by our members, but also by the businesses from around the world. You have the link to the ACCA Professional Insights app on the screen. I can also share it later on in the chat box, and all of our research resources, reports, but also podcasts and videos, they're all in open access. So you're very welcome to browse and yeah, look at them. I'll just have a quick look at the chat box. I see that many of you have started introducing yourselves, so please keep doing so. And it's really great to see that there are people joining us from many countries. I can see Ghana, Botswana, yeah, Bahrain. Yeah, just please keep introducing yourselves, and it would be very interesting to see that a bit later, and for us to keep the content of the presentation today, of the discussion today, in the context of who you are. Then very briefly about our ACCA Space to Grow report. Well, there is quite a lot written and said about accelerators and incubators. In general, I know that many multilateral organizations were working on different research papers and just business papers to explain what the accelerators and incubators are. What we wanted to do, we wanted to add a special angle to that. We wanted to, first of all, show this cooperation and the importance of the cooperation with the accountancy profession first. Second, we also wanted to bring more practical examples and stories. And in that report, you can find stories of the growth hubs, but also of the startups who are analyzing their journey within the growth hubs, but also the stories of the accountants who are working with the growth hubs and the opportunities and synergies that they see within that work. On the screen now, you can see some of the flags of the countries where the case studies are coming from, and also you can see the logos of some of the organizations that we interviewed to get the inputs for the report. So you can see that we have a really global scope, some very interesting examples coming from Hong Kong, coming from Nigeria, from Pakistan, Malaysia, Russia, India. And well, if you have a moment, just take a look at the report. And we were also, of course, we were delighted to interview ITC and to get some unique insights on working with the group of growth hubs. So if you have a minute, don't hesitate to take a look at that and hopefully to learn something new. Why we decided to raise that discussion now is just because we all understand that the SMEs are heavily impacted by the pandemic and they need support to grow and recover. And as a community of the support ecosystem, we need to help them together and we need to think what we could do together. Growth hubs, of course, are already doing a lot. I know about some really inspiring, impressive programs that were launched by some of the growth hubs, supporting the recovery, supporting the transformation of the small businesses. And actually in line, we saw the same movement from the accountants. And at this critical moment, their role was really very important, getting the access to the government funds, but also rethinking the way the businesses work. And that's why we thought, well, it's the good time to speak about that. I know that from what I saw in the chat box, I understand that majority of our participants today are from the growth hubs. And that's why I just decided to put this one slide and to speak of the role of the accountants in general for the small businesses. I know that even if you are from outside of the accountancy space, you know that the accountants play an important role supporting the SMEs. And quite often this function is outsourced. So the accountancy function is performed by the accountancy practices. And for the small businesses, those are usually small and medium-sized accountancy practices. And the abbreviation SMP stands for the small and medium-sized practices. And they're really, as our surveys show, they're a crucial part of the financial health system of the small businesses. They are acting as assurance providers, a very straightforward role that they have, but also as trusted advisors to many of the small businesses in a very broad sense, fostering financial inclusion, financial literacy among SMEs, also facilitating the access to finance, and supporting small businesses in digital transformation, in choosing the right applications, which was in particular vital during the lockdown situation, which I know is still continuing in some of the countries. And of course, having the data that's can be, well, accessed in quite an easy manner about the SMEs and about the performance of the SMEs. Quite often the accountants and small and medium-sized practitioners also act as advocates because they can aggregate the story of the group of the SMEs, because quite often small and medium-sized practices, they work as for a portfolio of small businesses. So we've quite often seen a group of active accountants going and speaking on behalf of a group of certain sectors of small businesses with the governments, just articulating the needs of those. So I think really they've quite often called the lifeline to SMEs, and we've seen that even stronger during the last 12-15 months. In terms of the existing interaction between accountants and the growth hubs, well, there are several areas where this is already happening today. I know that some of the accountants are providing services to the growth hubs, such as, for example, packaged accountancy services to startups. There are also many areas where the accountants are learning from the growth hubs in terms of the techniques that are being used, working with high growth businesses, the tools that are being used. Quite often the accountants are actually also the source of the information for the small businesses and startups they're working with about the growth hubs and programs that are there in the areas or in the countries that it could be beneficial for the startups or growing businesses to join. And actually, we've also seen quite some of the accountants of the small and medium-sized practices in particular joining those growth hubs, accelerator and incubator programs to get new skills, sometimes to get digitalized, sometimes just to understand better the growth mindset of the startups, or to expand their own businesses internationally. So there are already some existing interesting activities, and it's only continuing to develop, and that's why we actually wanted to also highlight the main areas of synergies that we see between the growth hubs and accelerators, and accountants. So first of all, if we look in terms of synergies and the overall opportunity, key points of synergy between accountants and the growth hubs. First of all, I would say that it's the alignment and the overall goal, enabling growth. Accountants that are looking beyond compliance provide the expertise and insights needed to drive business growth, and are often actually seen as growth hubs themselves, sometimes in small local areas, which is very perfectly aligned with what the growth hubs are aiming to achieve with their work. The second point, I changed. So the second point is the early stage support. And as I was already saying, that accountants provide their clients and growth hubs with solid financial and forecasting that's sometimes needed actually to the small businesses, to the startups, to enter acceleration and incubation programs and to pitch to investors. And they are helping the startups to tell their story, because sometimes you have the financial data, but you just don't know what to do with this data. And the accountants can be helping as a storytellers. And we know that sometimes the startups often, they struggle to cover the cost of the accountancy professionals, and accountants sometimes can offer the support in terms of the financial management in exchange of support. For example, if some of the startups are working on some digital solutions, so they can do some win-win cooperation that happens even without any reimbursement. Of course, the access to finance is another point. We all know that finance is key to startups, and accountants are well placed to guide their clients through the maze of financial options available, and the pitfalls and benefits that are associated with those. And they can sometimes connect the startups with the sources of finance, but also that are available in different areas, including the growth hubs. And if we look at the next area, mentoring, we know that accountants quite often act as mentors within the growth hubs. They're also sometimes independently are acting as mentors to the growing businesses. We know that some of the accountants, for example, offer the service of rent a board, bringing different expertise on board to provide a regular advice to the SMEs or startups who cannot afford and to have a proper chief financial officer and marketing team. But some of the accountants are bringing together experts from different areas and provide those bootcamp sessions, for example, on a quarterly basis to support the growing businesses, to bring the expertise acting as members, but also as in a way as a virtual board to the growing businesses. Of course, the external finance function, again, we see quite a strong synergy here, because as we understand, many of the growth hubs are providing a so-called back office support to the entrepreneurs who may lack the skills to deal with financial matters, with different administrative matters, and digital accountants, of course, can play a role in that. They can contribute to forming this back office support function. Networking, well, I think it's absolutely straightforward and clear that one of the strongest inputs that the growth hubs are providing to the growing businesses, to the startups, is the opportunity to network with experts, but also with like-minded business people. And actually, very similarly, often the small and medium-sized accountancy practices are the ones who are bringing together the network of small businesses, who are making the connections between the small businesses. And while doing that together with the growth hubs, we can only make the small business sector stronger. Well, we put another item, which is the technology evangelists. And here we all know that the role of the growth hubs in helping small businesses digitize, startups digitize, is very strong. Technology is an important pillar for the recovery and enhanced growth of small businesses. And we know that quite many of the accountants are either working together with IT experts or actually becoming the IT experts themselves, and are advising small businesses on the app stacks or the group of apps that can be used to further develop the businesses, in particular during the lockdown, as I was mentioning already many times. Accountants are the ones who are often, based on their own experience and based on the internal expertise, advising small businesses on digital transformation and on rethinking the business strategy thanks to the use of the digital tools. So are the growth hubs. So again, that's a very strong point of synergy. And as we all know, this is extremely important in the post-COVID recovery phase. We know that accelerator and incubator communities have risen strongly to the challenges of COVID-19 to create innovative solutions to problems created by the crisis and to anticipate the needs of the post-COVID-19 world. And we have some really inspiring examples in the Space to Grow reports on some initiatives that were put together around the growth hubs by the startups to support the communities, for example, with some PPE solutions, with some delivery of goods for the people who are self-isolating or for vulnerable groups, some medical solutions that were really fast-tracked to support the vulnerable groups. There are some really nice stories in our report, and I'm sure that there are so many amazing, interesting stories around that in the world, and I'm sure that every of the Growth Hub who joined us today have something to tell about that. So again, given the critical situation that many small businesses are facing now, this could also be a very important synergy point between the accountants, who were also quite often referred to as emergency services to the small businesses, and the growth hubs to step up and help the recovery and the survival at the moment of the small businesses around the world. So that's it in terms of the findings of the Space to Grow report. And well, without further delay, I think I'd like to proceed to the panel discussion. And today we have a really excellent group of panelists. We have a group who are representing both the growth hubs, but also the accountancy profession. And let me introduce our panelists, who will tell a little bit more about themselves. But well, we have from the growth hubs, from the small business support ecosystem, we have Adeneke Adeyemi, the Executive Director of Fate Foundation, Nigeria. We have Bilal Farouk Khan, Marketing and Communications Manager of National Incubation Center in Peshawar, Pakistan. We have Pradipta Patel, co-founder of Prohal, an accountancy practice based in the UK. And we have Malik Mirza, a finance expert and board advisor from Finman Group based in Pakistan. So welcome to our panelists. And before we start our discussion with the panelists, and before I ask the first question, I suggest that we run the first poll and ask a question to our participants. So the first question is, if you are from the hubs, does your hub partner with accountants and finance professionals? And if you are from the accounting space, does your accountancy practice or company work with growth hubs? And if you could start replying to that question, we'll definitely look at the results later on. And I suggest that we kickstart the discussion with our panelists. So if we could start with you, if we could start with our growth hubs representatives, and maybe if you could start with you, Adenike, if you could share your experience working with the accountancy and finance professionals. What are the main benefits of this cooperation for the participants of your business support programs? And if you could share some stories and with us. So over to you, Adenike.
Thank you, Alexandra. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to share our experience as Faith Foundation and how we've been working with Nigerian accountants, particularly accountants from ACCA in Nigeria. We are a 21-year-old organization that has been providing training, incubation and accelerator support for startups and growth stage businesses across different states in Nigeria. About 5 years ago, when we started to review our curriculum, the process, the methodologies, one of the things that really stood out to us was the challenge that our entrepreneurs during the training part of their programs had with the financial literacy segment. It was almost an interesting social experiment to note that whenever we started the financial literacy segments, and this cut across whether they were idea stage, startups, or growth stage businesses. Even during the sessions, whenever they were going to take a class around financial management, budgeting, any related course, there was almost like a tension. So from a social perspective, even the entrepreneurs' approach to each of the class always seemed very tense. And we just noticed, we realized that we needed to review the curriculum, the way we were teaching our financial management, financial literacy, bookkeeping courses in such a way where, first off, the entrepreneurs appreciated and valued the importance of that knowledge and not saw it as a challenge that they could not overcome. So that was number one. Number two, we also needed to better improve the way it was being taught. Because for a lot of incubators or accelerators and even small businesses, most of them don't have full-run accounting functions. More often than not is the entrepreneur who is the owner manager, who is also the finance manager and the accountant, the bookkeeper, and all of that of the business. So that also meant that the faculty that were teaching the courses also had to be able to come and understand the dynamics of smaller businesses or startups and the type of finance and account functions that they have. So from the demand side, we needed to look at the curriculum to improve the process. From the supply side, we needed to make sure that we had not just experts, but SME, small business experts who could effectively teach it. So we reached out to ACCA in Nigeria that had been a partner with us on some other programs in 2017, and we signed an MOU with them. And that has led us to a process that has involved a total overhaul of every aspect of our financial literacy curriculum, even to the detailed content of it. That's number one. Number two, we now have specialized individuals who have gone through train the trainer programs and who are better able to understand how to teach, how to handhold, how to support entrepreneurs on that. That work has even further led to so many other things, in us doing quite a lot of work around even better understanding how do you support micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs in Nigeria with financial literacy, because we did a survey in 2018, and we also launched the reports with ACCA, where we surveyed over 6,000 entrepreneurs across Nigeria, and 80% of them had never had any financial literacy knowledge or exposure at all. And that is quite a lot. But that's also not surprising if you look at the educational system, because financial literacy is not really structured in the education system across all courses. So if you didn't do accounting or business management knowledge, you really would not have interfaced with financial literacy. And one of the things we also wanted to share was to say, okay, this is important knowledge for you to get, but it's also important for you to appreciate why you should get that knowledge, because it affects every part of your business. And we wanted the entrepreneurs to be excited about improving their financial literacy knowledge and not feel overwhelmed by it. One of the very exciting things that we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years is that a lot of that support has led to quite a number of our entrepreneurs, particularly in our incubation programs and our early startup programs, able to access financing and funding. Because obviously, and this is very pertinent in the COVID-19 pandemic, because we had a lot of COVID relief funds that came out, but those who were quickly and able to apply for those funds are those who were also able to show their cash flow challenges, what kind of funding they needed, and how that funding could help them sustain or retain their businesses during the pandemic. And our ACCA financial advisors were very, very instrumental in hand-holding, in doing tele-advisory support, and just helping a lot of our entrepreneurs through and during that process. So that's also very important. The other thing I would like to say before I round up is also that has also helped even in preparing and making our entrepreneurs investment ready. We have an incubation fund that our incubator program provides funding for. And part of the requirements for that is being able to separate business and financial expenses, and to also show like a traction for your financial management over time. And 2 of our financial advisors have worked with our incubators to really build their bookkeeping skills and also digitize it in a way where they're learning, but they also take ownership of building and growing suitable finance functions using software, financial management software, that they can track their expenses, track their expenditure, allow other of their staff members to use it, and start to even build skills around financial audit, which a lot of the investors also require. So you're not just even building and enabling the entrepreneur, but you're also building a business, a growth business that is also really ready that on the path of investment readiness, because you're putting in corporate governance skills, financial management skills, accountability, transparency, and they're able to make business decisions with it. So I'll round up now, and I'll be happy to take more questions later. Thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you, Adenike. That's really very interesting, and there is so much in what you've just said. So there are so many points where you're already active, and where the finance specialists are really instrumental, as I can see. So maybe Bilal, if you could share your experience working with the finance professionals in Pakistan, in Peshawar. What is your experience there?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I'd like to build up on what Adenike said. It's 100% true. The fear of finance is a universal fear, especially. It goes beyond startups. I think all of us fear numbers that way. So again, there are 2 approaches that we take. One thing we've seen in startups that they usually do not have sort of a cross-disciplinary approach, right? So people expect someone who has a BBA or an MBA to become an entrepreneur, or someone who's an engineer who can actually build something and further sell it. So before startups actually come into incubation, we have a very extensive outreach program that we do. And what we do is we bring cross-disciplinary people, and we make them sit together so that they can sort of bounce ideas off each other. And otherwise, so for example, an accountancy fellow would never go to an engineering university for that matter, or he or she would never have friends in a, let's say, computer science department for that matter, right? So what we do, we bring all of these people together, and we host networking events so that they can talk to each other, because we all know that for a startup to be successful, you need a diverse team of founders. So another thing that, as Adenike said as well, startups tend to do, they want to do everything themselves, right? They want to manage the finances themselves, they want to build the product themselves, they want to do the marketing themselves, right? So what we usually tell startups that when you're starting up, when it's just an idea, why don't you bring on board co-founders with expertise in different domains? You're basically offering 50% or 25% of something whose valuation is 0, right? So you can share as much as you would like, right? So again, our approach is that we want to bring in as many disciplines into the incubation center as possible. So when we onboard these startups, so the first session that we do with our startups is a peer-to-peer session, right? So we tell them, okay, you're going to learn from us. There are going to be mentors. There are going to be coaches. But first of all, talk to each other. There are a lot of startups working in different domains, and on the first day, they end up collaborating on a lot of things, right? So again, if there is someone who's good at finance, he would assist them with their books. If someone is good at, let's say, marketing, they would assist them with their marketing, right? So again, that way, we sort of push the startups to help each other out and work with each other. Another thing that we do, so one of the early sessions that we do with our startups is that we show them the process and we help them register themselves with the government, sort of bring them on board as an organization. So what happens is startups are usually reluctant from registration because they think if we register, then they have to file their taxes, then they have to actually seriously take their books and all of those things, right? So again, the incentive then that we offer them would be that if you bring yourself into the system, then you're eligible for grants, then you're eligible for loans. Then if your books are on track, then we can also connect you to investors as well, right? So again, and so with the startups, what we do, so NIC has been here for almost 3.5, 4 years now. So we share the earliest cohort success stories with the recent startups, right? So we tell them, so one of our first cohort startups actually was the first in the region to become $1 million valuated company, right? And their key to their success was finance, right? So they figured out their finances, they sort of streamlined their books, and when they would pitch in front of the investors, everything was in black and white, and the investor could actually see the potential in the startup, right? So that is how we sort of encourage startups, that you have to be sort of very black and white when it comes to finance and accounts. So again, we've also signed an MOU with the ACCA Pakistan, and we seek regular help from them. We have actually 3 modules relating to finance in our curriculum, in the 6 months curriculum. And then after, when they graduate from the incubation and go into the acceleration, then we actively help them with evaluations and all of those numbers as well. So again, most of our startups, yes, they have this fear of finance, but we try to incentivize them one way or the other, that they can sort of overcome that fear. Currently, we've also so there's a small and medium enterprises development authority here. We also take their help. So initially, if the startup, they're very overwhelmed with the numbers. So what that organization does, that helps our startups do their bookkeeping, right? So on behalf of the startup, they can do that. And because it's a government entity, they do not charge anything from the startups, right? So again, so we help them, sort of give them a push start to get them going. And we monitor them from then onwards, how they can build on top of that.
Thank you, Bilal, for sharing that. And what I hear from both your answers from Danica, but also from you, Bilal, that there is quite often this mystified image of the accountancy, and in general, some people, and I remember our previous discussions, and Danica was saying that, oh, people think that you need to be extremely good at math, and it's like, I better don't touch this area. But actually, what we really want to show is that accountants are not there to, first of all, to check you. They're there to help you. They're there to support you, and they're the partners that will enable your growth. And I think that's the big message. And actually, as we asked the poll question, Noura, if you could show us the results, it would be interesting to hear, to see how are our participants interacting with the accountancy professionals. So for the first question, does your hub partner with accountants and finance professionals? So it's interesting to see that 44% of the participants, they are interacting already, while 14 don't. And as from the accountancy professionals joining, we can see that it's like half-half, I think, of those who are interacting and not really working with Growth Hub. So it will be really interesting to hear some examples of that during the Q&A session. But before that, I'd like to go to our participants, to our panelists representing the accountancy profession. And as we finished with Bilal's story about his work with the accountancy professionals in Pakistan, Malik, could you maybe share your experience and look at the other side of that question? So what's your experience working with the growth hubs, and what is this unique contribution that you as an accountancy professional is providing to the startups, to growing businesses, supporting the hubs? It would be amazing if you could share your perspective of that, please.
Yeah, I would like to tell two stories actually right now. One story is recent story when I was conducting a session with women entrepreneurs in particular, and we were having small and growing businesses, very enthusiastic ladies asking a lot of questions about finance, and the session was about financial acumen and financial management for business entrepreneurs. And when I completed the discussions on the balance sheet, and she, one of the participants, she said that I wish I could have this session much earlier when I started my business 3 years back. So I said, why are you saying so? She said that today I realize that the bankers thinks differently from an entrepreneurs. And for them, they are going to lend you based on your cash flows and your assets, which you can put them as security. So she told me that we were actually debating in our business that whether we should rent a shop or we should buy a shop. And after your discussion on balance sheet, and now I understand the assets and why these are important to be there for bankers. And as Danika was mentioning about access to finance, she said that now I've decided that I'm going to buy a container to put our clothes and make it a warehouse, because today if I buy a container for $2,000 or $3,000, in future the market value is going to grow. I'm going to have an asset on my balance sheet, and the bankers are going to see it very positively. So she said that this is a shift in my thinking which you have given me. Second story, I would like to go a step behind what we are discussing about accelerators and incubators, because accelerators and incubators are looking at the entrepreneurs when the people are in that phase that they are now into the practical world, ready to start things, ready to innovate, experiment, use the risk appetite. I'm author of a storybook on financial literacy for children, published by Oxford University Press. And when we published it, the idea was that there is very little material written for students or children to make them learn about financial literacy in very easy to understand manner, because people are afraid at times of numbers. They are afraid of getting into maths. So for them, talking about numbers, talking about financial statements may make them a bit scared. So one of the things is to collaborate and work with schools and universities where this information is provided to them in very easy to understand and a fun manner. So when I wrote this book, Chacha in the Forest of Wisdom, which is for children, and the book is on financial literacy, it covers 3 S actually, save, spend, and share. So what happened was that at the book launch ceremony, we were approached by a CEO of a large network of schools running here. And they said that we have just read and reviewed this book over the counter, and we have just gone through it. And would you like to design a curriculum to be taught to our students on financial literacy? Because we have felt that not only our students, but our teachers will learn a lot about financial literacy if we put this in curriculum. So one of the things, or one of the areas where we are now working and we are helping people is how can you embed financial literacy at school levels in curriculum, whereby teachers, students, they can get benefit. And after that, interesting thing happened that once we were done with the curriculum on financial literacy, the second request came from the same school once they implemented it in around 107 schools which they are running across Pakistan. They said that now we need a curriculum on entrepreneurship for grade 6 to grade 8. So now while we are talking about startups, we are talking about accelerators, we are talking about incubators, my experience tells me that there are two things which we need to very clearly put into our thought. One is when we talk about accounting, it's accounting, bookkeeping, keeping your expenses, tracking your income, using a software, putting your books together, reconciling, that's one area. When we are dealing with the clients who are small and growing businesses who are part of incubation centers, and they have cross incubation centers, now they're in accelerators, they want some trusted financial advisor. They want somebody who can guide them about their future strategy. How can they approach bankers? How can they make their businesses investor friendly? And they say that in our discussions, in our workshops, we do get an idea about these things, but we need somebody to work very closely with us who can, as a neutral person, guide us about how to grow our business and how to get to the sources of funds where we can expand. So just to share my experience with them, when accountants, when accountancy hubs, growth hubs, uh, accelerators, incubation center, they start working with those businesses as their advisors. They get very, I would say, fruitful results of making sure that the purpose for which those hubs are being created is achieved. We cannot expect everyone to become a genius or become a master after a 2 days or a 5 days or a 6 months crash course in finance. Certainly they would need experienced people who can help them, educate them, guide them on a very continuous and easy to understand manner. So that's where the role of financial advisor and accountants come, that with the partnerships, with the collaborations, they can play the role and help businesses in the way in they want. Because I would like to conclude that my experience of dealing with different businesses tells me that every business is unique. Some of the owners are very experienced, understanding, and they just need some motivation to move. Some of them need more hand holding to understand things at a longer term. So we cannot say that one size fits all. There will be different approaches. There's this webinar, I would say this is, and the report which you just shared with all of us is a very good attempt to make a bridge between uh, hubs, growth hubs, and accountancy profession to see that together how can we help entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Malik. Thank you for sharing your view on those very different aspects on where you're helping and those also different levels, and actually also raising the issue of continuity, the need of continuity of this cooperation between the accountancy professionals and small businesses. Pradipta, would you mind sharing your insights there? Because I know that you're doing something unique. You're helping businesses established in the UK. You're working a lot internationally. So would you mind sharing your experience in that area?
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you for all the speakers so far. And I feel like I want to be an entrepreneur again. I'm going to start a new business. We work a lot with a lot of growth hubs. So where Alexandra said previously that, you know, it's a matter of accountancy practice interacting with the growth hubs or any incubation center available in their own country, and also providing every single professionals or associates together in a small business environment that they have created. I think you kind of summarized us in that picture, because we are a very small practice. And the way we work with our client is like our family, and the way we connect the entrepreneur with every single professionals. And this is what we do, basically. So we work with Department for International Trade, who the UK government works internationally in every single country. Wherever entrepreneurs need it, have a business idea, would like to do more market research about it, you can go to the local Department for International Trade, in short form is DIT, and you ask them for any market research in the UK, you want to establish your business in different country, they can help you with all the free marketing and advertising, and the market research is possible because the UK government do not charge. They encourages entrepreneurs to come in the UK and invest and would like to grow your business or connect you with the similar partners. Similarly, we also work with the local Watford Chamber of Commerce, also with other local growth hubs available. And what they do also is encourages entrepreneurs to get facilities or investor or connect with the partners, whatever the connection is possible. And we as an accountant have connections with all of these growth hubs and ACCA, of course, and everybody else. So if any entrepreneurs comes to us and would like any information or would like to apply for a bank loan or anything, we work with bankers, we work with investors, we work with lawyers. If you want to come from a different country and you want to invest in the UK, we can help you connecting.
I'm sorry. I think is it me or is there?
Yeah, the connection is quite bad also on my end, so I think it's
it's bad at my
problem.
end.
Okay. So maybe
Yeah.
Yes. You can explore.
So
example how the anxiety has built for the entrepreneurs that financing a kind of worry for everybody. Well, I'm not sure. I think I was frozen for a minute.
Yeah, I think we'll.
So can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
I think the connection, we almost lost the connection for some time. Maybe it could help if you could switch off the video. Sometimes it helps to hear you better. Pradipta, are you still with us? Pradipta, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. I think there was maybe 1 minute interruption of the connection, so we could just hear the noise. But what the last thing that we've heard, that you're really working with a very broad spectrum of stakeholders, just linking the startups and businesses who are planning to establish in the UK.
Yes, so I also would like to explain there is no anxiety between the financials. That's why we accountant there for. That's why ACCA there for, to support you. Okay, now with the bookkeeping, to people, there is plus minus multiply divide. There is nothing else. There is no
I think there is still an issue with the sound.
Yeah, it's impossible to hear.
So maybe Pradipta, if you could try to switch off the video.
We can always help you with. You can't hear me again?
No. I think there is every time that you started. So maybe a way is if you could switch off the video. Could that help to maybe just make the audio signal stronger, if that works? I'm really sorry for that. So
I think she has disconnected now.
yeah, so while we are having this issue with the sound, maybe we could run the second poll, the second question that we had to the participants, and actually it will bring us to the next part of the discussion with the panelists as well. So in your opinion, has the pandemic changed startups' perception of the importance of financial management? Yes, they approach it more responsibly. No, it hasn't changed their attitude, or I don't know. And actually, I also suggest that our panelists comment on that issue. So do you see that there are any any changes in the way the growing businesses are acting after the outbreak of the pandemic? And maybe Malik, if you could start, because I know that you are working very closely and well as everyone. So could you comment on that? Do you see any change in the way the businesses are looking at financial management?
Yeah, three sectors I would like to put based on my experience, which we have seen in our country undergone a complete change. One is education, because now things have gone online. One is health, because of COVID. There is a whole concept of online consultations, which was not there before, at least in our part of the world. And the third one, which I have seen, is whole supply chain and delivery mechanism. Like the businesses which were not interacting with customers regularly have switched to mobile applications, and they have tried to get in touch with customers through delivery channels which they can facilitate. And just to share with you, we have seen during pandemic the country's first digital hospital. So this is a very interesting concept whereby few doctors came together as a startup, and they have started a whole hospital in a digital manner. So this is something, yes, which is happening. Having said that, there are practical issues whereby digital side may not be available in rural areas, or where the entrepreneurs are not educated enough to switch, or what they call in entrepreneurship term, pivot their business model to take advantage of the digital opportunities. Having said that, as I was discussing with one of our clients, multinational CFOs, he was telling me that even if the pandemic is gone, he is going to check all the expenses of air travel, that why people still want to fly when they can Zoom, or when they can Skype, or when they can talk with each other through computers. Why do you need a meeting or a flight to go to another city and have interaction? So even post-pandemic, I think digital is going to stay. People need to understand about the importance of digital finance, digital, I would say, applications to bridge the gap, and the communication should be faster with the client. So yes, three areas, as I mentioned: health, education, and supply chain. These have undergone drastic change. And the financiers are also actually putting in more money because they've seen all these three sectors growing.
Thank you, Malik. So maybe Bilal, would you like to share your insights there?
Yeah, so I second Malik on that. These are definitely the three sectors that have grown, and so what has happened is, because of a lot of so emphasis has been on these three sectors, so the government has gotten involved as well. For example, telemedicine was always sort of a gray area. The government wasn't sure if it should be legal or illegal, but during the pandemic, so the government has its support. And once the government gets behind a certain sector, you see a lot of growth in that sector. Same goes for, say, last mile deliveries or delivery services. So one of our earliest cohort startups, their startup was actually nominated by the district government as the primary source of things that people can get, and they can order for home deliveries and all of that. Similarly, a few of our startups have made portals which connect you to doctors, pharmacies, labs, so all in one place. So again, yes, the industry has seen a lot of growth. Startups are very careful that way as well. For example, other than the startups which were incubated here, we used to have a lot of startups come in and use the space as a co-working space, right? So after realizing that they can be equally productive from their home and this is just an additional overhead that they're paying, the internet, the electricity, the rent. So startups are thinking sort of smartly, and they're working from home, and they just come in once a day, once a week, do their meetings, go back, assign tasks, and so that way they've become smarter as well. So again, looking at how things are going. So again, the people at large, they have also gotten sort of used to the digital platform as well. And as Mirza pointed out, there's no turning back. We're going digital from here onwards.
Thank you, Bilal. As I can see that we are already overrunning a bit, maybe just like 1 minute inputs on that from Pradipta and Adanike. So are there any specific changes that you see in the way that startups are approaching their work after the outbreak of the pandemic? Any more responsible attitude to businesses? Any interesting transformation stories? Maybe Pradipta, can we just try to, if it works with you, just let's hope that it does this time.
Hopefully, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so with the pandemic as well, there was a lot of problem with a lot of different business sector in the UK. And the government and local council has offered a lot of help. And then with that help, now all the startup and the businesses could get financial help from the government. But what we were trying to do with them is working together and see where they can save and how to improve their cash flow and think outside the box. If you are thinking inside the box and then you are doing what you've been doing business, then it is not going to work out in the pandemic. You need to think as an entrepreneur. You need to, if you're an existing entrepreneur, then you need to think like in a startup. You need to think that what else I can do to grow my business? What is there that the pandemic wouldn't affect me and I could possibly do from home or possibly could do it in online platform? And I think one key to that is please do keep in touch with your customer anyhow you can, because people likes you collaborating with them, you speaking to them, you're getting in touch with them. So we've seen a lot of change in our clients and a lot of change in the local community, that people are going above and beyond trying to explore what they can possibly do and how they can do it.
Thank you, Pradipta. And Adanike, your perspective on that.
So I think the number one thing that was very obvious for was behaviors and understanding of like cash flow during the pandemic. So particularly businesses that had very high level cash flow into their businesses. So maybe a food business, for instance, a bakery business, a lot of small businesses that received a lot of cash. And then when we had the lockdown and when we had restricted movements in Nigeria, just knowing that you are not going to get revenues for a month, 2 months at the very minimum, probably more, but then also seeing that you had limited cash and you had to pay things. So all those conversations we had around being able to watch your cash flow, knowing your how much you need to spend as a business, what are the important spends, what do you now need to relook and reassess at? The pandemic really brought that home to life. And when we talked about understand your business numbers, what are your revenue drivers, what are your expense drivers, that could not have been a better example for a lot of entrepreneurs to understand it and then use those numbers to make business decisions rather than being emotional about their business decision. So it was a tough time for some businesses. For some businesses, actually was also a good time, because for those who were doing the health supplies and all of that, they also saw increase in demand and contracts and all of that. But it was being able to say, what are the variables that impact how money is coming in and what is going out? What do I need to prioritize? Which staff do I need to keep? And what is their salary implications? How do I even engage with staff also around what revenue is coming in and what is available to be paid to them? So that for us was just an increase in the practical case study of financial management, business strategy, making decisions, and the impact on viability right now, or 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 months time.
Thank you, Adanike. That's a great input. And maybe let's also take a look at the results of the poll that we asked, just to see if the participants also saw any changes if we could show them on the screen, Nuria.
Yeah.
And well, in the meantime, I think that's the end. And sorry, I know that we're running late, but I'd like to thank our panelists for your really great contribution to that discussion. I think we've basically reconfirmed all the synergy areas that we discussed before, and I think that's once again shows how important it is to work closely because we're all aligned as an accountancy profession and as growth hubs. We're aligned in our main goal in helping the small businesses grow, in helping small businesses survive in this particular moment. And financial management is very important there. And well, as we can see from the answers from the poll, that the approach of the small businesses to financial management is getting more responsible after the pandemic. I think that was a moment of realization for many. So 74%, for example, of the respondents said so. So another reason for us to get closer as the community to support small businesses together. And well, thank you so much to the panelists. And I know that we have two more things to cover in the session today, a Q&A if there were any questions. And also I know that ITC wanted to make a short presentation of the Young Entrepreneurs platform. So I guess it's back over to you, Nuria, with the remaining parts of the session.
Thank you. Yes, so I will now give the word to my colleague Claire, who can briefly introduce the tools that are now available, and then maybe we can move to the questions. We also have a quick summary of everything that has been discussed, but maybe let's see if we have time for these, or maybe we share it after the webinar. So Claire, over to you.
Thanks, Nuria, and thanks everyone for this super interesting discussion. I won't take too much time because I know the Q&A is very important, but I just wanted to quickly share my screen with everyone. And many of the hubs here have already been invited. If you haven't already created your account, I fully recommend that you get involved with the Yay community. ACCA and Alexandra are members themselves on the Yay community. And I just want to share quickly what the platform can offer you, as we're calling them growth hubs here, but we also call them BSOs, or business support organizations, on the platform. And the Yay community provides a space for you as a BSO to directly connect with a community of young entrepreneurs. The platform is a space where you as a BSO can provide information about upcoming applications. If you have an open incubation program, oh, my computer seems to be frozen. You can also post if you have an upcoming event that you're hosting. So doesn't seem to be working. Internet is against us today. Okay, well, I stopped sharing then. Okay, anyways, as a BSO, you can create an event and you can accept applications from youth entrepreneurs directly via the platform. You can also create an opportunity. So if you have an open application for an incubation program or an acceleration program, you can use this space to directly connect with more than 18,000 youth entrepreneurs who could possibly participate in your programs. And we have a really nice feature, which is the groups area. This is basically a micro community, which you as a partner to Yay can take advantage of to directly connect with a smaller subset of the community. So as the platform provides a media center, a forum, a live feed, an event space within the groups, you have a smaller, let's say, representation of this that can be directly accessible to those people that are in your group. So you can create a private group that's only accessible to those in your network, or you can create in a group where anyone can join, they just need to apply for it. So it's really an amazing resource that we as the ITC and the Youth and Trade program manage in order to, if you're a BSO, maybe you don't have the funding to directly invest in a platform for your members, you can leverage our technology and this platform to do that. So I just wanted to stress that before going. Many of you have already been invited, but we will re-invite you again after this session. Please check for an email coming from Youth and Trade at intrasend.org. It might go to your spam. Make sure you white label it and mark it as a safe sender. And we have a number of offline communities in many of the countries represented here today, one in Pakistan, for example, one in Nigeria as well. So it'd be great to connect with you guys on that. And my final point before I stop talking is that we have a mentor matchmaking program which starts next week. We have many experts here in this discussion, and it would be great to engage you all in this innovative approach that we take using technology to match mentors and mentees across the platform. So I will share the link in the chat, but it would be great to have you all there and to connect you via this mentoring program with youth entrepreneurs from around the world. Thanks, Noria. Back to you.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm not sure if there's any question regarding the platform, but maybe we will check the chat as well. And maybe now we can open it to the Q&A session. If there's any question for our panelists, for our wonderful moderator as well. So any questions, please just let us know either in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
I saw there was a question earlier on about the software, that if any hubs are suggesting any software, accountancy software to be used. And I saw that there were some answers also in the chat box. Someone mentioned Xero. That's one of the options.
Yes, I mention Xero because it's quite user friendly. I think my connection is terrible.
Yeah, Pradipta, I'm afraid we cannot hear you. Yeah, I think there is another question in the chat box. Why the accountants from Hafiz? Why the accountants are considered as overheads and have not been paid what they deserve in the market. This is the situation in Pakistan, India, and also in UAE. Well, that's I think a difficult one, and I'm afraid we cannot give a straightforward answer to that one. I think there are different experiences among the accountants in terms of the remuneration and the type of services that they get. But yeah, if you could be more
and
specific.
on what certifications they have. So usually that's the rule of the market. If you have a bachelor's degree in, let's say, accounting and finance, so that would be different to someone who has an ACCA or someone who has a CA degree. So again, I think the market sort of values on what degree or certification you have.
Okay. Thank you for that. Maybe if there's no other question for now, maybe I can just we can finalize with some of the notes that we've taken of what has been commented during the session, and then we close it for today. Unless there's any other question that I'm missing.
I think there is a very last one.
Okay.
Can you post some petitions in the Y community?
Sorry.
I think I can answer that. And Akwayime, I think that you have posted your petition on the community.com, which is great, and people can respond there. It's on the live feed, if I'm correct, so people can respond to your petition there. Thank you.
And there is the last question in the chat box. How has the role of accountants changed to fit today's world? Well, I think we're discussing it during the session today, but I think the biggest change is that a lot of work is being done digital. That has spared a lot of time for the accountants to do way more advisory work, to do more in-depth analysis, to do data analytics, to do strategic advisory, digital transformation, consultancy for small businesses. And well, we are reflecting a lot on that in our professional insight space. So I can also share the link to that, and you can take a look at some reports, but also don't hesitate to reach out to me if you'd like to discuss that topic in detail.
Can you guys hear me now? Hi, everybody. So I think the role of accountant changed, that we are more advisor now for anything and everything. I was getting phone call 12 o'clock at night from my clients, middle of the pandemic, because they were stressing how to pay the salary next day and things like that. So I think accountant is just not an accountant, as Alexandra said. We are like an advisor now, and we work more growing your business rather than just keep looking at your financial figures. So if anybody has any concern or questions, happy to help afterwards as well. Please do get in touch with either Alexandra or us or any of the panelists. Happy to help you.
Excellent. Okay, so I think that's it for the questions. What do you think? Shall we wrap it up here? Maybe since we don't have a lot of time, I'll just briefly show you that these are the notes that we've taken. I will be sending them after this session. So these are like some of the comments on like how can hubs collaborate, or what has worked well with the hubs of like the collaboration between hubs and accountants. What is the role of accountants also vis-a-vis hubs and entrepreneurship, and also what are some of the outcomes that were commented by the panelists, and then also like a little bit of a brief overview on what's the role of accountants, or what can be the role of accountants when supporting startups. All this has been mentioned during the session, so I'm not going to go through this again, but for those who might want to review some of these points, who might want to post any other additional questions or do some research on what was mentioned here, we will share this note so that you can keep a little bit of track of what was mentioned today. And but since we're already a little bit over time, I will let everyone go maybe, and just to appreciate really like the collaboration with ACCA today. It has been great to work with you on this webinar, to really provide this information to our networks of hubs, and of course also to have all the insights of the panelists that participated today in the discussion. So again, it's always important for us to have to showcase direct experience to our hubs. So really thank you for this, and also to all the hubs that joined today. Thank you as well for joining, and we hope that the session was interesting. Again, we will share some of these notes so you can keep track of what was mentioned today. If there's any question, anything, we're always here to support, and we hope to see you also again on the next webinar for hubs that will be announced soon. But I don't know, Alexandra, if you want to mention some last words.
Thank you very much for this event and this interesting. Thank you. It was well presented. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And well, thank you so much, ITC, for this opportunity. And well, thank you so much to our excellent panelists for sharing all the insights, and really looking forward to working together. If you have any questions, very happy to reply to them after the session. I think I've shared my contact details, but you can also find me on LinkedIn. So thank you, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you.